Instant classic alert in South Bend. #1 Clemson taking on #4 Notre Dame. Final shot for the Tigers. 4th and 24. DJ Uiagalelei connects with his receiver, and then a little pitch and flip ensues, but it's well short of the sticks. The Notre Dame Fighting Irish take down #1 Clemson 47-40 in double overtime. Wake up the echoes, Irish. What a scene it was in South Bend. Make of it what you will. A bit of a field storming there by the ND faithful that were in the stadium. Ian Book, 22 of 39, 310 yards, a touchdown. Kyron Williams, dominant on the ground for the Irish, 23 carries, a $140 and 3 touchdowns. Notre Dame exercising some big game demons, taking down #1 on Saturday night. Let's welcome in our guys, CBS Sports football analyst Bryant McFadden and Barrett Sallee. Gentlemen, it was billed as a potential Game of the Year matchup between these two top 5 programs. I think it's fair to say it surpassed anything we could have even asked for. A double overtime thriller goes the way of the Fighting Irish, an instant classic. B-Mac, as you filed this one away in your mental Rolodex, what's going to be the lasting image for you?
Well, just the physical nature that Notre Dame played with. They played bully ball, to say the least, especially in the trenches on both sides of the football. They controlled the trenches offensively, running the football. I think they ran for over 200 yards. They basically just neutralized Travis Etienne. I think he had around 28 or 27 yards on the ground. That's not quality, sound Clemson football when it comes to running the football. So Notre Dame was the more physical group in the trenches, and because of that, they were able to get themselves in favorable third down opportunities to be able to convert those opportunities. We didn't see the same thing from Clemson. Struggling running the football put them in difficult third down situations, and they didn't convert a lot. But it was a championship-like atmosphere, 2 championship-like teams going toe-to-toe. And I know Clemson, they were without Trevor Lawrence, but DJ didn't miss a beat. I mean, he was phenomenal as a young passer in this atmosphere. Their future is definitely bright at the quarterback spot there in Clemson. And you better believe these 2 teams potentially could face off again later throughout the season.
My lasting image is that Clemson's problem really is a problem. That secondary had been torched a little bit throughout the course of the season. And I didn't think Ian Book could stretch the field through the air. I thought that it would be more of a check down game because, let's be honest, that's what Ian Book and Notre Dame really have done. They've relied on the running game and they've tried to play mistake-free football. But you see right there, 310 yards, 68 on the ground. Ian Book, the game manager? No, Ian Book, the difference maker. That's my lasting image. A guy who has been around for a while, has had some ups, has had some downs, coming up big on the big stage, the biggest stage of his career outside of the national semifinal. He is the reason they won that game. So Ian Book and that passing offense is the lasting image for me.
Fantastic performance out of Book. Fleet of foot as well, making some big plays, getting out of the pocket. Guys, the big game struggles in Notre Dame, well documented, but those demons seem to be exercised here on Saturday night. Barrett, can you put the magnitude of this moment into context, not just for this season, but for Brian Kelly and this Notre Dame program?
Yeah, well, I think it solidifies Brian Kelly and Notre Dame as, at that level with Clemson, Alabama, and Ohio State. Now, this is one win, so maybe you don't put them at that Clemson level in terms of program prowess in this day and age, but they can play with these guys. And I think they proved that because, like Brian said, in the trenches, they won. They won consistently. And what do Clemson, Alabama, and Ohio State do better than anybody else? They not only win in the trenches, but they have the depth in the trenches. Notre Dame's got that. So to me, Notre Dame, when it went to the playoff a couple years ago, I wouldn't say it was a fluke, but you kind of knew they were a paper tiger. Yeah, they were undefeated, but you kind of knew what was going to happen in that Cotton Bowl. You put this Notre Dame team in the playoff, they can actually win some football games, not just get there.
Going to be exciting to watch how it all shakes down. B-Mac, as you look at what took place on Saturday night, so many times programs like this that can't get over the hump, confidence seems to be the issue. What sort of confidence boost is this for the Irish as they move forward with their season and into some big-time matchups down the stretch, perhaps, like you said, in an ACC championship game and then potentially in a college football playoff?
I mean, anytime you're able to get a victory against a championship like ball club, that will boost your confidence. But for me, I felt like this was an ideal game for Notre Dame to come away with because of the injuries for Clemson. Not having their starting quarterback in Trevor Lawrence. Like I said, DJ played great football, but they missed a lot of key. They were missing a lot of key pieces on the defensive side. So this was an ideal win, ideal opportunity to win this ball game, and they did so. They played at home. I think the biggest question mark for me is, can they continue this type of success in postseason play, right? And that has been where the demons really surface for Clemson. I mean, Notre Dame, I'm sorry. When you talk about playing quality sound football in the regular season, we know Notre Dame has been consistent. They've been extremely consistent. But the issue for Notre Dame has been postseason play, right? So who knows who they potentially will face if they can get to the ACC championship game, because I think that will be the say-all, be-all when it comes to what Notre Dame season will be throughout 2020. Postseason play. Regular season play, they've been able to weather the storm and play real good football. The biggest question mark for me has been postseason play, and we'll see what they will have in store, because I do believe, looking at the rest of their schedule, they should be able to get the ACC championship game.
Perhaps we will get a look at what Notre Dame looks like in a playoff format in the year 2020. The ripple effects of this one going to be felt across the country, gentlemen. Barrett, as you take stock of the top of that AP poll right now, number 1 beats number 4. Number 2 might be the best team in the land as is. Where do things shake out when we look at things on Monday morning?
Yeah, well, first of all, can't wait for the rematch between these two teams in Charlotte in December. That's going to be awesome, because that's what's going to happen. But I put Alabama number 1 in our CBS 127. I had Alabama number 1 really over the last couple of weeks. So I would keep them at number 1. I think Ohio State, yes, small sample size, but it's been a good sample size. So have them at number 2. I would say Notre Dame moves up to number 3, obviously, because they beat Clemson. And then Clemson comes in at number 4, because let's be honest, I think a lot of us, myself included, thought before this Clemson-Notre Dame game that it was 1, 2, 3, Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, put them in whatever order you want, and then the drop-off to number 4 was pretty significant. I think Notre Dame proved there is no drop-off between 1 and 4. So I do think they get the number 3 spot, Clemson gets the number 4 spot, and then that's where you find the Grand Canyon.
Yeah, I agree. I think Alabama, they're the clear-cut number 1 team right now. Yes, Ohio State, they're a few games behind some of the other teams in Power 5 play, ACC, SEC, but they probably will be the number 2 team. Notre Dame goes up to number 3, and yes, Clemson number 4. I don't see them falling outside the top 5. I think the committee understands the type of talent that Clemson has, and yes, they scored 40 points, but they didn't have Trevor Lawrence. You know, they missed the leadership that he provides when he is in the lineup, and along with some of the other players they were missing on the defensive side. So Clemson probably would be number 4 best case scenario, but clearly wouldn't be outside the top 5.
I want to talk a little bit more about that quarterback situation that's going to roll out here for Clemson. As you mentioned, B-Mac, Trevor Lawrence out with COVID-19, should be expected to get back in the fold in the near term. But when you look at what DJ Uiagalelei did over the last 2 weeks, 342 yards against Boston College, 439, 2 touchdowns, no INTs here against Notre Dame. B-Mac, does Dabo Swinney have to find a way to keep DJ Uiagalelei a part of this Clemson offense?
Nah, not necessarily. I think DJ signed the letter of intent, understanding and knowing he would have to wait his turn. Right now, his turn showed up sooner than later because of Trevor Lawrence, getting COVID. But outside of that, when Trevor Lawrence is healthy, he's going to wait, because Trevor Lawrence is arguably the first overall selected player in 2021's NFL draft, and you have to respect that and understand that. But I can tell you this much. They have a quarterback in waiting, and he might be the 2nd best quarterback right now in the ACC. And he might be top 5 in the nation. When you look at, if you rank all the quarterbacks that are available, I mean, you got Kyle Trask, Mac Jones, Fields, Lawrence. You might throw DJ name in there if you want to really ruffle some feathers, but clearly he's probably the 2nd best quarterback in the ACC right now off of 2 starts, because he has that type of talent and his skill set is through the roof, and he plays with a lot of confidence. And for him to be able to start 2 ball games, and think about this, guys, last week when he started against Boston College, Trevor Lawrence basically practiced all week as a starter. Remember when he found out he wouldn't be playing, that was towards the end of the week. So it wasn't like DJ got a full prep of working with the starters. He jumped into the lineup and just played great football. And then this week we saw what he did. He was able to do getting a full prep week for this Notre Dame ball game. And that's a pretty good defense in Notre Dame on the road. So yes, whenever Trevor is back, as long as he's healthy, you don't have to worry about trying to satisfy DJ. I think DJ understands the situation at hand and he has to wait his turn. And when his turn is ready, and when his turn shows up, he's going to be ready.
Yeah, I think B-Mac's right. You know, he probably is one of the second or third best. Ian Book might want to jump into that conversation in the ACC too. But no, you have a free year of eligibility this year. So basically this is a prolonged training camp for DJ. But I think the stats will jump out and the records will be talked about because he's played so well over these last 2 games, filling in for Trevor Lawrence. But he's also had to. That's, I think, the biggest thing is they got down to Boston College. They had a shootout with Notre Dame. So DJ has to put up those numbers for his team to win. Now, he can do it. We all saw it, and it's been awesome. Trevor really has never had to do that, at least on a consistent basis. So I'd pump the brakes on finding a spot for DJ. Yeah, you know he's there, and yeah, you can get him prepared knowing that he's got a free year of eligibility. You don't have to worry about, you know, anything moving forward. But, you know, Trevor doesn't have to put up those numbers because he's so good. DJ, to no fault of his own, had to put up those numbers for his team to win. And in this case, they didn't get it done.
I'm sure there's some NFL scouts circling that name in red right now, despite if he's going to see the field again this season. Gentlemen, had a blast breaking it all down. Notre Dame in a thriller against Clemson. You want more coverage from our guy B-Mac? Download and subscribe. All things covered. B-Mac and Patrick Peterson break it all down on field and